Everyone, welcome back. I've got my co-host Mark Rader. He's also a really good friend of mine. Mark,
Hey,
what's up, buddy?
what's going on, everyone? How are we doing? Happy to be here.
He's got his new ring light, so he looks sharp.
Thanks for the shout out.
And
No
today we're
sponsorship.
gonna. That's right, man. That's right. And we get to talk to Sasha Tripp today. And Sasha is a coach. She's an agent, broker. She wears many hats, and she's extremely talented. I want her to do a better intro because mine absolutely was super sucky. And I want her to tell you what she does for a living and how she's going to help us. Go ahead, Sasha.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I watch lots of these and it's an honor to be invited to participate in one. But yeah, I am primarily just running a real estate company. I do some public speaking. So I coach and train agents all across the nation, but my main hat is like, I'm in the trenches. I handle all the listings for our team. And then we have 5 full-time buyers agents that handle all the buyers, and we'll sell about 300 houses this year with the primary set of sales agents. And I don't know, probably 100, not quite 150 of those will be listings and the rest will be buyers. So it's just a nice mix. But yeah, my main hat is just surviving this real estate market along with you guys. And we're in Follow Up Boss. We finally found a system that works after I feel like I've interviewed every CRM that existed. And I'm just happy to support. It took us a while to get it all set up because we're kind of, I would say we're a little more complicated team, but it was awesome to find a CRM that really supports us, that like has us, we're like a fine-tuned machine now, which is really cool.
Nice. What do you, before you show us what you've got, what do you typically gravitate to when it comes to Follow Up Boss on the back end? I'll give you an example. Like for us, we love the leads coming through automatically and then getting assigned, and then the notes and the tagging that the system processes, right? So how about you?
We've just set up so many automations. I'll be honest, sometimes I don't know like what comes with the system and what we have like slowly pieced in, like we've done so many little tweaks here and there to suit our team. We love the automations. We love lead tagging. We love the fact that we know what our responsiveness to leads is, which we could never really track before. We love that we can really weed out the ones that aren't really all that hot, so that our, we don't have an ISA. So we just can't waste a ton of time calling every single lead over and over again. So I feel like between that and just using the call list, I know we used to all be really, bad about like, we would just have task lists that would just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they would grow and grow and grow. And now I really do feel like those call lists have finally solved that for us. So you don't like walk in and feel so overwhelmed every day with the stuff that you're supposed to get done, even though, there's still a lot to do. It just doesn't feel, it's just not such a heavy weight to come in and see that task list with, 100 items on it every day.
Yeah, very true. I like that. And you, on top of that, on top of being able to use Follow Boss that way, you've got this great way of planning, prioritizing, and really getting your team broker productive, right? So yeah. Tell us about that.
So for me, I'm just here to share, Follow Up Boss for me, I really wanted it to be tactical things in the business, but I still want to have quality of life and I want to have work-life balance, which means if Follow Up Boss, it was, organizing all of my thoughts, I'm writing a book. For me, that doesn't belong in Follow Up Boss. Like the next steps and the next things I need to do don't belong in there, because it's like, if your big picture goals get down into like the in the trenches weeds when you need to be making, business development calls, I feel like everything starts to overlap. And then on the weekend, when I'm focusing on big picture in life and I don't want to think about all of my clients and work, it's like the only way I can get any mental, discrimination between work and business is I have to have the stuff in 2 different places. So for me, I'm just sharing some tips for how I use another system to sort of manage my big picture, like what's going on with my big goals in my life. But then I work that to sort of interface well with my daily Follow Up Boss. So it's like Follow Up Boss is managing all of our clients, our tasks, our dates, and our deadlines. And then I have a couple other things that are sort of managing the rest of my life so that I'm not just working all the time and having no fun and no play and no other aspiration. So I just have some little tips and tricks. I feel like Everybody's got different things that work for them, but this has sort of married it all together in a way that's worked.
I love it. All right. So what do you have for us? Because we're always looking to learn. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm going to pop open I try to do like a cute little set of slides so that it's super fancy.
Ooh,
Look,
I
I
like
even made a
it.
fancy one just for follow-up boss, like, ooh, just for you
Yeah.
guys today. But I'll move right into it. So for me, I think what happens for a lot of agents is we get really in the weeds and we start focusing on just like, okay, who's the appraiser we need to call back? Who's the client that's waiting to hear from us? Who's that agent that's been hounding me down, asking about, all the terms that the seller wants. And if I like operate day to day based on like my inbox and my email and the people that are blowing me up on text message, I would literally never get anything meaningful done in my life. I would just be sort of putting out fires all the time. And so for me, I had to have this system that I built around Follow Up Boss. And this is sort of like my big picture vision life plan system. And so what I always look at, and this is something, an exercise we do with our whole team at the beginning of the year, because again, quality of life for me means I'm not working all the time. I do have other aspiration and other goals. So we always look at where we want to be in a year. And we usually run this around January 1st and then check in right about now because we're switching to the second half of the year and then check in towards the end of the year. And this is a tool that I have used. There's many different variations of it. I'm coached by a real estate coach. It's called the Core Coaching, Michael Hyatt, who's just kind of like an entrepreneur business coach. He also has his own variation. Donald Miller has his own variation. It's basically like your spheres of life and how you're doing in them. So at the beginning of the year, we always work through this as a team. And, we say, we'll share bits and pieces with each other so that we can help each other stay accountable to them. But I always look at this list and I go through like, where do I rank right now in all of these worlds? How's my love life? Am I, is it good? Is it just mediocre? Could we use some marriage counseling? Are we getting date nights? What does that look like? How's my work life? Like, am I fulfilled? Are there any big designations I should be chasing after? My health, I always look at like, what's my body fat percentage? How badly am I eating? How many days a week am I having a glass of wine at night? So I try to get this idea of like where I am now. So I fill one out every year with like, what is my life today? And where do I rank that on a scale of 1 to 10? And then I fill out another one of where do I want to be at the end of the year? And so for me, and then what we do as a team is we each take this and we laminate it. And I carry it around with me all the time. Like I always have it in my purse or my work bag. It's just one of the very few pieces of paper I travel with. And for me, I'm constantly looking at this because what I feel like can happen to real estate agents is we can like work, all week long, 40, 60, 80 hours a week, just putting out fires, responding to emails, doing the things that come in from transactions. And we never do any of this stuff. And so instead of starting my day and starting my week by looking at my email and the fires and what my clients are asking, I start by pulling out my little laminated sheet and I say, well, these are my big picture goals. These are the things I said I wanted to accomplish between now and December 30th. And I'm constantly moving 2 or 3 of these things off of this list to like, how am I going to focus on it this week? How am I going to make sure that in addition to putting out a million fires, I'm focusing on some of these bigger pictures. So this is just the little cells blown up. And I do have this, I can drop this in when I pop out of the screen share, I can drop a link to this in. If anybody is inspired to do something like this and have like a, where was I at mid-year and where can I be by the end of the year? These are just some little things that they're kind of like memory joggers, like think through some things like, what is your cash net worth? Is there anything you're trying to buy soon? Do you want a boat? Do you want a second house? Do you want to get a nicer car? Are there things that you're really working towards? And get all of it on paper, because I just feel like this market's moving so fast. Our real estate lives are moving so fast that it's easy to sort of like, you can just wake up month after month and then year after year, and you haven't really made any like progress that, that you can really recognize towards any of the things that are actually important to you, even though you've kept all your clients and your employees and your friends and your team very happy. You may not be doing anything that actually keeps you fulfilled. So that's the first step. And then I told you, I sort of break that down every week when I'm planning my week. The first thing I do, and this is a really cool tool that I'll talk about a lot. This is Michael Hyatt's. It's his full focus planner. It comes in like every color, every style. And basically what it does is it has a section that sort of has you, this is a blank one for tomorrow. It sort of gives you a chance to put in like, what are your big 3 things for the day? What are your other like supplemental tasks that you're going to try to do, but you may not get to? And then it juxtaposes it against your actual calendar. So you fill in all your appointments, and then, you're like, okay, I have this follow-up boss at 4 o'clock. At 10 a.m. I've got my team meeting. At 12, I've got to go to my real estate association and do something. At 1, I've got to talk to my clients about negotiating their offer. So you sort of fill out all your appointments. This is always where like the rubber hits the road for me. I look through and I'm like, well, gosh, if this is my appointments, I only have like that little hole and like that little hole, but then I have a task list that's 20 items long. It's like, there's a conflict from the get-go. And so what I do is I start by looking at my week and I'm like, all right, what 2 or 3 things can I take off of my big picture annual goal list and move to this week to say like, I'm going to progress those 2 or 3 things in some way. And so that's always my first focus. And then I move it down to like, okay, what can I do in a week? What can I do in a day? So the next thing I'm picking is my weekly big 3. And those are 3 things that must come from my goals. They can't be from anyone else's goals. And then I roll down and I start trying to like fill this stuff into the calendar blank. So you see my ideal calendar, and this would overwhelm some people. For me, it is very freeing. This sort of tells me what I should be doing in any given slot of the day. So you'll see every morning at like 10 or 10:30, I have FUB calls. So those are my follow-up boss calls where I'm doing the things that my CRM's telling me what to do. I also have time slated for lunches. I basically try to be in the morning and get my administrative office stuff done in the first half of the day. And then in the second half of the day, I'm, typically, things get moved around, but that's when I'm having listing walkthroughs, client appointments, negotiating offers, that sort of thing. But I've got this skeleton schedule. Of course, none of this is perfect. And sometimes a client wants to meet me at, 9 a.m. and I was planning to not take any clients until 1 or 2. But what my rule has always been is like, here's a schedule that gets me the amount of time that I need to do business development. It gets me some time to work out. It gets me some date nights. It gets me some time with my family, but it also gets me time to go through problem files, negotiate offers. This is like a schedule that would get all of the things into it if I had a normal, perfect week. And so my deal with myself is like, okay, if a client can only meet at 10 a.m. and I'm supposed to be doing something else at that time, then I can move my follow-up boss calls to another time of the day, but they can't move off the day altogether, because this is sort of telling me like, if I follow this path, I'm going to sell the houses I need to sell. I'm going to generate the leads I need to generate. And if I don't follow this path and I spend all day like in my inbox, then I'm going to feel that, 90 days from now, if I were to do that for a couple of weeks, 90 days from now, I'm going to have a lull in business because I was like too busy, reviewing emails, making my website prettier, going to open houses all the time. I wasn't doing enough that was income generating. So this is sort of my ideal schedule where I have filled in the biggest priorities first. And then, I have an executive assistant who schedules and books everything for me. And so when people ask like, hey, can I meet with you Tuesday at 4:30? And you can see Tuesday at 4:30, that's my one afternoon that I spend the whole afternoon if I can with my son, then she knows she'll hold those barriers and boundaries for me a little bit better than I will hold them for myself, because I'm a people pleaser. I'll say yes to everything. She will really like religiously say, okay, can we find another time? Can we do it a little earlier? Can we do it a little later? Can we do it by Zoom? And what I have found is like, I can actually really hold to this, and I don't have to work every night and every weekend. And people are coming to meet with me. And if I have some boundaries, like that's okay. People wanted to meet with me, and typically people are happy to give a little bit of leeway for me to have my own life and for me to not work, 80 or 100 hours a week in order to still have like me to be top of my game, be top negotiator, be sharp when it comes around to the time to list their house, be, really excellent at advising them. So this is my perfect schedule. And the reason I show this is because it sort of shows you where I find the time for the next couple of little things that I knock off the list. So daily workflow, that's where it gets ugly. It's like we can have these aspirations. We have this laminated sheet. It tells us like what our goals are, and we pick a few things to focus on, but then we get into the nitty gritty of the day to day. And that's when things get off the rails, right? Like things are coming in. It's hard to keep up with everything. You had this vision for what the day was going to look like, and then it gets a little off track. So this is Full Focus Planner for those of you, just so you have the name. I'm happy to send these slides to whoever might be interested in them, so you don't have to write all this stuff down. But this is sort of how I start my day. And again, I go from my weekly big three down to my daily big three. Now, the daily big three may not be like the biggest, most momentous things in my life, but what I will say is my feeling is that you can only really do like 3 things well in a day. If you've got a day booked with appointments all over the place, you're probably not going to very easily check off a 20 item task list. You might be able to do 2 or 3, then your brain's going to start to get fried. Like if you're trying to price 6 different houses in a day, that's a lot. If you're trying to write 5 different offers for totally different clients in a day, that's a lot. Like you can do it, but I do believe that at a certain point, probably 3 or 4 things is the max of how you're going to be, like the max of what you'll be able to do well. So I always focus on my daily big 3. And then I use this little section of my focus planner, and you don't need this planner. I'm not like a sales rep. You could just do this in your notebook, or you could do this in whatever task management system you use. But the 3 things that I'm like, I cannot leave this day without these 3 things happening. Like I cannot go home at 5 o'clock if I haven't written this offer, ratified this one deal, and then like made the big call to the HR rep that I keep saying that I'm going to, try to connect with about their incoming employees. It's like, those are my big 3 things. If those don't get done, I do not go home at 5. And then I may have a list of a multitude of other tasks. And so the big 3 then flows into like, okay, here's where I break my day down. So people are like, okay, how do you get it all done? They look at this ideal schedule and they're like, wow, that's really aggressive. And there's all these little windows, and it's like green time for prospecting, call business people, call clients, call agents. And they're like, how is it possible that you can get all of that done? That might be is that my follow-up boss that's ringing in the background? You can hear that. Oh my gosh.
That might be, yeah.
There we go. Look at that. I'm getting a lead right now.
Call.
My team's answering it, I hope. So they see that and they're like, well, how do you do it? So this is another tool that has come from my real estate coaches that I work with over at the core, where they have given you, it's like your report card. So it's like, this is how I know if I can fit my schedule, if I can morph my schedule together with this report card. It's just like, I just need to do the things on this list. I don't need to like revamp every marketing material. I don't need to know every detail about every house on the market. I just need to be selling houses. I'm a salesperson. So I need to be 50% of my day needs to be spent in some variation of sales. So on Monday, I call from my top 25 list. These are like my VIPs, the people that refer me a ton of business, the people that are just constantly in my corner. And Monday, it's like, nobody really wants to do any work. We're all tired. So I come in, I'm like, call my favorite people because it's easy to talk to them and it's a low barrier of entry. They're going to be nice. They're going to love me. Tuesday is when I call every single client that's under contract. So every week I'm like, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Here's your Tuesday update. Here's what's going on in the file. Here's the things that are outstanding. Do you have any questions? Okay. How's everything going? Oh, you're loving us. Things are going great. It gives me opportunities to potentially ask for a referral if we're planting the seed and things are going really smoothly. But it also gives me the opportunity to say, I will call you again next Tuesday. If you have anything that's urgent between now and then, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, we'll talk to you on Tuesday. And what I find with these updates is that if you set the precedent that you're going to call them at a certain time, you have now condensed all the millions of calls in between. So they're not calling you over and over again with every update, every question, every little thing that pops up. They know they're going to talk to you on Tuesday. And so for time maximization and for efficiency, trying to get as much lumped into these Tuesday calls as possible, and then not having the interruptions the whole rest of the week is tremendously effective. And then Wednesday, I call my database. So everybody has a database of some sort. I call a letter a day each week. So in the first week of the year, I call everyone whose last name starts with A. Second week, I call the B's. Third week, I call the C's. I'm sure Follow Up Boss has a really wonderful system for doing this all by call lists. For some reason, I have to like literally click on my database call list and scroll through the people with C, because I have to see all of their names. Because what will happen to me, I'm sure this happens to a lot of people, is like, I'll just call the same 5 people with the last name of C, and I'll skip the same 5 people. And for us, our database letters are quite big. So it might be 30 to 50 people, and I'll just migrate towards the same ones over and over again, and I'll skip the same ones. So I have to have my full list in front of me to remind me, like, these are all my past clients. They need to hear from me. And if you call a letter of the week, you'll get exactly halfway through the year. You'll get to the first week of July and you'll be through the alphabet once. And so then you started over the second half of the year. And now all of a sudden your whole database has heard from you 2 times a year consistently. So the one thing we don't have is clients that end up listing with someone else because they didn't know I was still in business, or they haven't heard from me in so long, or they thought I was too big for them or too busy for them, because we are calling them a couple times a year. Then Thursday we call any hot leads that aren't converted. And then Friday we call business people. And so that's my power hour. And I work through the list. And this is just a summary in case someone wants the slides, so you don't have to memorize it. I work through the list in Follow Up Boss. So you can see here, it's very tiny. Right now I have 47 overdue tasks, and that's because like there's a few, oh, that is my Follow Up Boss that is endlessly, oh, I'm sorry. You guys can hear that, can't you?
Yeah, we can. I love it.
Well, we're blowing up. Follow Up Boss is getting us business, but I can't figure out how to mute that without you guys not being able to hear me. So I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
This person will
It's part of
stop
it. Keep it
shortly.
But
this is showing
it up live.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? It could be the lender, and it's like, no, they're just calling for another update that I've already given them this week. So, so no, we don't need lenders. We just need clients. We just need buyers and sellers. So this is saying that I have 47 overdue tasks, but some of you can see like some of these are getting quite old. Like, on Friday, the 17th, I'm calling someone to congratulate on a ratified contract. I've tried calling them. I just haven't gotten them. And that's not one that I want to check. You know, they ratified a contract. They're working with my buyer agent. They would never meet me if I don't call them. And so that's going to hang on my list until it's done. And then, you know, up calling and thanking people for referrals. Same thing. I'll try to call you a few times. So you may hang on my list for a few days for me to thank you for a referral, because I want to show legitimate, like grateful acknowledgement to those people that have referrals. But I think we operate the same as like the Follow Up Boss best practices would tell us to. We've got our listing leads, which that list should always be very, very small because they're only a lead until we've started talking to them. We've got our hot sellers, our active listing, pre-listing are the people that we're going to get up and running in the next week or two. These are my clients under contract. So those are sellers that are under contract. So there's 30 of those. And then, you know, we've got all these different lists, but the ones that I primarily work off, I want to say those are really the main ones that Follow Up Boss, you know, it's like, that they have all sorts of different recommendations on how to manage your day based on what you're doing. But I just work, you know, through my day based on my little hot list. And then it's all here for me, which is so amazing. Like I don't have to think, I don't have to use a single like brain wave to figure out who to call. I just open the list and I call them all. And it's like a fun little competition for me to get it down to 0, right? It's just so fun when those lists are at 0. I feel like they're never at 0 anymore because it's like I always have an overdue call that's outstanding. But I just work so that it's, you know, it's basically saying that anybody that needs to be contacted within a, you know, relatively frequent amount of time has been contacted within that rule that has been set up. And those are things that we tweak. So listing leads, we want to talk to them. We want to contact them every day until we've spoken to them. Then when they go into becoming like pre-listing, or if we're getting them up and running, we're getting ready to list their house, we want to talk to them 3 times a week. And then if they're on the market, we're really talking to them daily right now because things are happening so fast. But then if they're, you know, if it's a seller that's going to sell 6 months from now, we're talking to them monthly. So we've got all of that built into our list, and we just try to keep them as clean and as tight as possible. My buyer's agents obviously have completely different lists, but this is sort of what guides me during my little power hour. And then I think these are our little like automations and like templates that go out. And I feel like they really follow exactly. It's like we didn't recreate the wheel. We just did what Follow Up Boss told us to do. We renamed some lists a little bit and we tweaked it for like the different types of leads that we have coming in. But really this automated process takes care of our transactions. And I mean, for the 300-ish sales that we'll do with, it's basically 6 constantly full-time agents. I mean, we have to have a really good CRM because that's a lot of transactions per agent in a year. And it's like, if you don't have a great CRM managing like the process, these leads just get lost. You know, there's just no way to keep up with who you're supposed to be following up with and who sort of like fell through the cracks. So this is an overview of just the things that I do. I just went through all of them. I do the full focus planner, my daily call list. So you sort of see my time blocks and when I'm calling people. You saw my rough schedule. So I try to stick to that. So when somebody's asking me like, hey, can you do a walkthrough? I'll try to slate it into the afternoon spots. If someone's saying, hey, can you come to this board of directors meetings? I can't change the board of directors meeting most likely. So I'll fit it in. And then I try to like move my ideal schedule around it so that I always have time for business development. I always have time for my team meetings that I have to do. I always have time to do my little, social media, video, all of that stuff. And then my little planning periods. It's like, basically I'm looking at these lists and coming up with plans. Like, how am I not only going to get all the random things done today that are firing me from everywhere, but how am I going to sort of sync that up with the fact that I want to write a book and I want to be a good mom. And, I like to foster pets from the SPCA and I want to lose 20 pounds. How do you sync all of that up with your inbox that's overflowing and your voicemails that are overflowing and just all of the day to day? And then the final thing I look at is really habits. This is one of my favorite things. I think breaking out what is a task and what is a habit is really important. Like if you're going in Follow Up Boss and Follow Up Boss is telling you every morning to like exercise for 30 minutes, or every morning it's say, do your power hour. Well, I don't think that's a valuable task for Follow Up Boss to be telling you to do, right? That's a habit. Like daily, you should have a habit of doing a power hour. Daily, maybe you have a habit of prayer or meditation or whatever that looks like for you. So for me, I have my cute little habit tracker and I've got it on the wall over here and I've got all my habits, top row might be prayer, meditation, exercise, walk outside, drink lots of water, whatever your things are that you're trying to hold yourself accountable to. And then these little numbers sort of follow the days of the month. And so I'm competitive. I don't like to break the chain. So if I'm saying, hey, I'm going to work out for 30 days, I'm not going to want to like not fill that little box in with a color. So I'm going to want this chain to be complete. I'm going to want to keep the habit up. And I find that like, you've got to get this stuff out of Follow Up Boss. Because if you have all of that stuff in Follow Up Boss, you will be endlessly bogged down by like not really knowing what you're supposed to be doing with your day. So these are my little habits that I track: Bible study, cardio, reading, walk the dog, writing. Am I doing phone calls? I'm trying not to drink wine every evening. And then I'm trying to really kick my Diet Coke addiction. We all have our problems, right? So these are little ways to sort of track this stuff and find ways that like, you can build it into your day so that like it almost becomes, habit in theory becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to read it off of a list. You don't have to check it off. It just becomes built into you. And so you have a lot less difficulty getting through it. And then I just put a couple screenshots. And like I said, I'll share these little slides. I just put a couple screenshots of like what my little habits are, because I think people are always looking for ideas for how to start your day and how to be productive. For me, I'm reviewing email, I'm reviewing the hot sheet, I'm looking over all new leads, I'm checking in to see like what voicemails and emails piled up last night that I don't want to have forgotten about. So I scroll through my voicemails, I scroll through my emails, I do my full focus planner. This all takes me about 20 minutes in the morning. And I will say it's the most well spent 20 minutes of my day, because it's just planning for how I can be more effective and more efficient the rest of the day. And then by 9 a.m., I do all that between 8 and 9. I kind of do my morning, like health, startup, meditate, try to be a better person routine. That's all early. Then 8:30 is sort of like planning my whole day. And then I come in at 9 and I'm ready to like roll. I'm ready to do power hour. I'm ready to call everybody on, ratified contracts, anniversaries, birthdays, thanking people for referrals. I'm ready to shoot a video and get it out really quickly. And so then it's like, I do this for an hour. I kind of knock these things out. It's really an hour and a half because you build in a power hour, and it's by 10:30. It's like the hardest part of my day is over, right? Like I'm kind of cruising the rest of the day, and I have client appointments and I've got emails and I've got fires to put out, but I know I've done my business development. I know that I've kind of like reached out to my sphere. I've called and thanked important people. I've shown, gratitude and acknowledgement for people that are supporting my business. And now it's like, all right, I can put some fires out and I can deal with the rest of the day, but I've got the whole day ahead of me, and sort of the rest of it can sort of fall into stride with what I want. And then at the end of the week, I do a review and I'm like, hey, did I do any of those 3 big things that were important, or did I just get caught in the weeds? And then get back to it. So that's the big picture. And it sounds tedious, but it's like week in and week out. I will tell you, if you write all these goals down and you have them near you and in front of you, you don't have them tucked away in a binder that you just look back at, like as you're getting close to the end of the year or you're starting your New Year's resolutions again for next year. I feel like you can really accomplish so much more. And I think people would be amazed at how much they can fit in the day. And that if you're always just reactive and responding to fires, your day is going to get away from you. And you're always going to feel like you're working more than you probably really are productively working. But there are ways to build this stuff in. And we have really, really long lists of people to call. And we have really, really full email inboxes and really busy lives. But it is all manageable. It just means that you've got to sort of plan it a little bit better and fill your gaps in productively instead of with social media and, you know, the many other things that sort of get us kind of down a path that is not necessarily productive or efficient or getting us to income producing. So that's sort of my big picture. That's my whole spiel of how I manage it and how I sort of have it all, you know, overlap and intertwined with Follow-Up Boss. But any questions that you guys can think? Do you guys do all the same stuff with like the big picture planning and trying to just chunk it down to smaller things? Is this what everybody's doing?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly in our jam, exactly what we do. Just slightly different in our calendar,
like different
but very
tools, different
similar.
worksheets. Yeah.
Very reminiscent of so Mark and I love Jocko Willink, extreme ownership.
Yeah.
And he says, discipline creates freedom. So this is exactly what you're saying right here. So yeah, down exactly what we do. And I had a few people in here wanting the slides. So how do they get a hold of you?
Yes. Okay. So that's a great question. Let me turn my screen share off and then I will back out and I'll just package the slides up and drop them really quick here. Are they in Facebook or are they in this little Zoom chat? Oh, I
in
see
here. So if you want, maybe I can
yeah, here,
so
I'll
that you
package
can
them up
talk
and
to
then
them.
you can drop them wherever they need to go.
Okay, great.
That's
great.
awesome. Yeah.
And if people want to follow you on social, where do people go to follow you on social?
Yeah. So my handles are Sasha Charlottesville on Instagram. And then you can find me as Sasha Tripp on Facebook. And then I always say follow our company, Storyhouse Real Estate, because we are definitely like, you know, we're sales agents. So we're mostly talking about real estate and what's going on in the market. But at the same time, we are constantly like just looking for things. We are big on productivity, efficiency. How can we tighten up processes? How can we make systems a little bit easier? So we're a little mixture. And we do show some of our kind of cool Follow-Up Boss, like tips and tricks along the way too. I feel like we take it for granted now. Follow-Up Boss has gotten so tight and perfect for what we need that it's like, I feel like we think that everybody has that set up, but I know that that's, you know, it takes a while to get it really, every team's different, right? So it takes a while to get it really like perfect for your flow. So yeah, let me see if I can get this. Here is that coming through to you guys? That little PDF?
Got it.
Boom.
And then I also just followed your
Storyhouse RE,
and I followed you on Instagram too. So
awesome.
I think I followed your personal one.
Here, hold on. I stopped screen sharing. I have a little slide at the end. Yeah, well, you guys have found them all. I used to have a little slide at the end that sort of points everyone to the right direction. But yeah, follow away. And I'm like, I'm such a freak about efficiency and productivity that like, I just want to hear other people's ideas. Like, oh, I have something like that, but mine's even better. Oh, I used to do that, but here's an app that I found that sort of leveled me up, or here's a journal that's even better. Cause I just want to, I don't know. I think we can fit a lot of things into a day if we're really, really mindful of it. You know, I think everyone can be more efficient if we really think about it and kind of get focused on it. So I'm always looking for little tips and tricks if anyone has any.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? Thank you for doing this. This was really good. For a lot of people, it was a really good plan on how to really take execution to that level that they want to. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I know it's sort of like big picture, which is a little, I don't know. Follow-Up Boss is very tactical. I kind of like being a little like floofy sometimes, you know? So thanks for having me. This is awesome. And now I'll have to go follow up on the page and see if anybody else has some ways to improve it.
Thanks, Sasha. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sasha.
Mark.
Nice meeting you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the week. See you later.